Stay fly, stay fly.
Black people have been walking around with the dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying? It's been a very minute time frame in which I like to call it amnesia. You know, a very minute time frame in which we've lost what we had before. And this, you know, being in the age of the Aquarius.
He said, you know, theology is our discussions based on beliefs, based on people's different interpretations of them, and they're fighting to say that my interpretation...
You're listening to The Fly Guy Show. They do everything on the fly and in such a fly manner. Stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.
After all that party, the views expressed by the guests are only the views of the guests, unless we say we agree, unless explicitly stated.
Hey, this is Ernie Thomas here on the Bold School Podcast. You're listening to Psycho Varner's Fly Guy Podcast. Support, like, subscribe, and share. He's saying some good things. Share it. Don't keep it to yourself.
Right, y'all. Peace, beloved. Peace, beloved. How we doing? How we doing? It's good to have everybody on today. Time for another great episode of The Fly Guy Show. Get on code, The Fly Guy Show. And we're having some issues today. The internet's giving us some challenges. But today we're doing an interesting conversation called How I Got Conscious. How I Got Conscious. And we're going to have the author, Zoe, who's going to be joining us, talking about how he became conscious. Zoe has a book out. Your bro Zoe, he has a book out. And, you know, his book is pretty interesting. And so in the book, he talks about how he became a lot more conscious. When we talk about consciousness, we're talking about awareness of that. Some of the information that he received in regards to his African descent, his quote unquote blackness, he didn't get the whole story. You know, some of the things he began to believe weren't truly the entire story. And so when you go through his channel, you know, he has a great series of podcasts on it. Your bro Zoe, so check that out. He deals with, you know, the black skinheads, black punks, and black thoughts. Reminds me, I used to date a woman who is a skinhead. Sister that was a skinhead when I was in high school. Salute to Lisa. How you doing? This one is Jesus, the Extraterrestrial Alchemist, Past Lives. That sounds interesting. I'm not sure how Laura Lockhart is. I guess she's on the show with him. This one deals with Dharma. And this one, Melanated Generational Wealth is the New Norm. Melanated Generational Wealth is the new norm. So check out your bro Zoe. He has some really good information. He has some music out as well. Nubatomic, that's from your bro Zoe. And, you know, the core of it is he has a new book out. And let me see if I can find his book. His book is called Bicultural. I'll probably need to increase the size of it so it can be seen. But the name of his book is Bicultural. Living and Leaving the World of Illusions. Living and Leaving the World of Illusions. Your bro Zoe. He'll be joining us at some point tonight. So until Zoe joins us, I want to take this time to, you know, also talk about how I became, quote unquote, I guess a lot more conscious as well, and maybe how you became, quote unquote, conscious as well. So first of all, I want to start with the operational definition. So operational definition, conscious is simply becoming aware that what you believe is not necessarily the entire story. You know, what you've been taught is not necessarily the entire story. I kind of look at it as 3 circles. So imagine there's a large circle, and inside that circle is an inner circle. That's an inner circle. Inside that circle is a more robust, smaller circle. Well, the small, robust circle are the things you know that you know. All right. And outside of that robust, smaller circle is a circle that are things that you know you don't know. And then out of that larger circle are the things that you don't know that you don't know. And we're pretty much driven in world and life by the things that we know and the things that we know we don't know. But there are things that we don't know that impact our lives as well. And so to talk about how he became conscious, it's your bro Zoe. How you doing, bro?
What's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
It's going well. Things are going well. We just kind of went through your webpage, and everyone got a chance to see your bro. Let me reduce the size on it so it's manageable. So talk to us about this. Bicultural. Living and leaving the world of illusions. And I have a picture here of Yeshua and Marie, R.I., or Marieme, and Yeshua, the Christ. Then you also have one. Now, which Pharaoh is this? Ptah. Okay. Which Pharaoh is this? Ptah. Okay.
That's Ptah, the deity Ptah. Yeah.
And then you have the American flag. So you can go to yourbrozone.com and you can see all these great images. And the name of the book is Bicultural, Living and Leaving the World of Illusions. Let's start there, man. Let's start with the title, man. Tell me about the title.
Bicultural, Living and Leaving the World of Illusion was pretty much the picture itself kind of tells the story as well, because you see it's like in half. One of the side is like me growing up in the atypical American fashion, as a Black American, and everything on that side kind of symbolizes that, the Black struggle, the Native American aspect, and then the American flag. And the other side is the dealing with, the African aspect of it, So in the story, I kind of talk about how me just growing up in America, how, at one point I was, just like we all are conditioned to, the living in America, the laws they'll have, education, and so on and so on, But then the other side is when I started waking up and become conscious, to the reality of what's really happening, And it's literally once I started submerging myself into, that aspect and that culture, it was like I was living in two different, realities, two different cultures. You know what I mean? So that's ultimately what it's really showing, is that's what's saying. It's like one side is my Black American experience, and the other one is me tapping into my ancestry, culture, and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, how challenging? So that's
basically why that came from the title.
Okay, how challenging is it to live in both worlds, to be bicultural?
Well, the first part, I'm going to say the main part. It's going to be easy because this is something that we is living in America. We have to live this way. You know what I mean? That's kind of the easy part, relatively speaking, is dealing with, dodging cops and, and everything else that comes with, this world. But, and just, the total onslaught of, being Black in America, and the way that we're treated, as Black Americans, you know what I'm saying? The other aspect is it's like we have to relearn, a lot of this information that we weren't taught. And this self-study got me, everything I did was through self-study. Nothing was from, what this system gave me. You know what I'm saying? Every aspect of it is like, I had to go out of my way to learn this stuff, every aspect of it, So I'm still learning that. The American side, it's kind of like that's really starting to fade away. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to submerge myself more into the dealing with African spirituality and etc.
Okay. I want to take this moment. We have a couple of comments coming in. We want to give our normal disclaimer. So when we use the term African American, we're saying an American citizen of some level, not necessarily entirely, of African descent. And the use of the term black doesn't refer to skin color, hair texture, origin from a city, state, or country, national, planet named black. We're not talking about a crayon color. We're not using the term to address one's legal status and nationality. Yeah. So when we use the term black, it's a person of some level of African or indigenous or aboriginal descent. So, first of all, we're not dumb, y'all. So I know I'm going to get
the normal. That makes sense. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? The Memoirs of a Karmic Dynasty is popping in. How you doing? That's a gorgeous sister. Keep doing what you're doing, sister. We love what you're doing. So, okay. So you realize that there were two different worlds, the world that you were given and the world that you had to seek. Let's talk about that process of seeking. Of seeking.
Okay, yeah. And like I talk about the book, I walk, it's kind of like a chronological thing, because I talk about me living on the illusionistic side of this reality. But there came a certain point, and I remember, because I grew up like, I grew up Catholic, you know what I'm saying, with the Catholic school, all that good stuff, you know what I'm saying? But even as an altar boy, I just remember walking down the aisle, you know what I'm saying? And walking down the aisle, just seeing all those images, something told me in my mind, I was like, yo, something is not right about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, every aspect of it, I was just like, yo, and it just kept on growing and growing. And it came to a certain point when I completely left the church, and I was searching everywhere, man. Because I like Bob Marley so much, I remember I was trying to learn from the Rastas, you know what I'm saying? Because I started reading about Malcolm X and etc., I started talking to the Muslims, you know what I'm saying? But I remember I was sitting at my job because in Richmond, Virginia, I was sitting there, and there was a sister named Kenya. I talk about this in the book. There's a sister named Kenya to my left, and there was a brother named Taki on the other side of the cubicle, and I thought I knew a little something because I went to, school for African American studies, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there like, yeah, I know about this. And I was talking about certain things. And I remember saying to Kenya, I was like, Jews are the most persecuted. Now, granted, this is, 20 years ago, you know what I'm saying? But I was young, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't have much knowledge. I was still seeking real at the beginning stages. I told Kenya, I was like, yeah, Jews are one of the most persecuted people on the planet, and she went in on me. You know what I'm saying? She was like, what? She said, you don't know about so-and-so? You don't know about so-and-so? You don't know about so-and-so? You know what I'm saying? I was just like, no. And then on the other side of the cube with the brother Taki, he was just, every time I asked him a question, he was just gave me an answer like that. And it just had so much basis behind it. You know what I'm saying? It had so much a foundation and so much like validity. You know what I'm saying? It was just, and then one day he said, here, read this. He gave me this book. It was called Our Bondage by Dr. Malachi York, right? And I remember opening up the book and I was reading it. And I saw all these images and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Of Moses was black and all this Aramaic language and, you know what I'm saying? All these different languages and stuff. I was like, yo, I had never seen nothing like this, you know what I'm saying? And once that was like the introduction, you know what I'm saying, to that type of information, you know what I'm saying? So I just kept on kind of building on that, you know what I mean? And that journey, it just kept on building and growing, different master teachers I, got involved, started getting information. So it just came to the point in which, I just realized that it finally dawned on me that I was lied to. You know what I'm saying? It finally dawned on me that this, everything pretty much, this information was incorrect and I had to pretty much start all over. So that took me on my journey, you know what I'm saying? And it's still a journey now, of course, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm still learning, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to continue to learn as much as I can about really everything that I feel as though can benefit me and help me grow, as an individual. And also people around me, you know what I'm saying?
Understood. One of the things that I've come to accept is that very often you don't want to give, you don't want to give pearls to the swines. And you don't want to feed steak. You don't want to feed steak to the babies. you know? So in a young age, there are certain things that we're taught. And as we get older and older in consciousness, we're supposed to receive other information. Unfortunately, because of the country that we grew up in, and such, you know, because of some of the things that we dealt with, our leaders, our teachers, our elders didn't receive the information that would take them to the next level. So they received elementary school conscious information. All right. They never received the middle or the high school conscious information. All right. So they taught us the elementary school conscious information. And so I'm not sure if we were lied to. I think in some ways now, if you asked me 5, 10, 20 years ago, I'm like, yeah, y'all lied to me. You know? But now I'm at the position where I believe that, I believe that we have been given what they had to give.
We have been given what they had to give. I know, I agree. On my, like, whenever I asked specifically elders outside of just the atypical like Christian, especially the Christian specifically, whenever I asked outside of that circle, I was being spoon-fed information to get me, you know what I'm saying, where I needed to go, like through the whole time. Like, even before I got that information that the brother Taki gave me, I'm still reading other books. Like, this is back in Richmond in the 90s. Like, I saw Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. I physically saw him lecture. You know what I'm saying? I was able to, I was able to see some of these great master teachers from myself and learn from it. So it just kept on rising. I'm gonna tell you, like, for real talk, I remember when I got this information, started getting those books and stuff. I used to just, I'm keep it real. I used to just like smoke a blunt, have a stack of books, and that's all I did for a year. I go to work and just read, you know what I'm saying? Because it was just like, like they said, like, I remember Doctor saying it's like you have an RNA and DNA explosion. It's just stuff that's just going off. So once it happened to me, all I did was study. You know what I'm saying? I just kept on reading. And that was like it for a year and some change, you know what I'm saying? And then, it just came to a point in which I realized that this was my path. You feel me?
I feel you. I went through a similar experience. I want to actually bring up on the screen the channel, Our Black Improvement. We're live here now. How I Became Conscious author Zoe. That's what's up. But if you go through our old videos on our channel, go to the very beginning of the videos, you'll see that I had videos from, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, Barashango. We had a whole lot of, and so I went through that period where I was learning, I was listening, I was picking up information, and I was trying to incorporate that information into the life that I had. And I tell you, at some point, I realized that you can't necessarily mix everything together, man. You can't necessarily. I was trying to find some of our old videos,
exactly.
And I
agree with that.
I don't necessarily. Yeah, it's kind of hard to mix things together. So I had to change the people that I hung out with, man. I really had to change the people that I hung out with, the content that I listened to. I had some old school Barashango. Barashango used to come to the Norfolk area, and he used to lecture, and his lectures would be 5 hours. So you can check out some old school Barashango. I have some Dr. Ben on the channel, and that information just kind of flew in the face. Now, you talked about, growing up in a Catholic household. So my father was a minister. And so, I grew up primarily in the church. And it wasn't until I started gaining knowledge of self. My parents always kept me around a conscious, some level of consciousness. But when I started gaining knowledge of self and I would kind of push back, that's when I moved from them talking to me about the elementary school level stuff to more of the middle school level stuff.
I got you.
And it's amazing because a lot of the people involved in the Christian church know this type of information, but it's not what they provide to their flock. It's not what they provide to them.
That's true.
You know, when my father started talking about
true.
theology, he said, you know, theology is our discussions based on beliefs, based on people's different interpretations of them, and they're fighting to say that my interpretation is the interpretation, and all the other interpretations are inferior to the interpretation. And so you have, you know, in the Christian church, you have people that come from the prosperity theology. You know, my father was involved, and my mother as well. My family was involved in the liberation theology, where the parts of the Bible that they focused on were the parts that liberated you from struggles and from difficult situations. But there are people who focus on the prosperity part, where they talk about what God will do for you. You know, rather than what you got to do for yourself. And then there are other people who really focus on the evangelistic part, where you're supposed to, your sole focus is to teach the gospel. But the Bible has all of those in them. And then, you know, there are things in the Bible like, you'll see things like when Mary M.A., you know, Yeshua's mother, you know, how she paid tribute when she went to certain places, and she did sacrifices. And, you know, most Christians think that sacrifices are anti-Christian. But it's all throughout the Bible where you see that you got to give up something. You got to give up something to get something. You got to go through a struggle to get something. It's throughout the Bible. And you see it with Musa or Moses. You see it with Isaac. You see it with Jacob. You see it with all. Where they had to give up something. There's a sacrifice to get something. And unfortunately, too many of us have to give up the lessons that we've gotten in the those, you know, in the church environment, so we can get a higher knowledge of self.
A higher level, I
Would you agree with that, brother?
You know, and ultimately, it's still, 100%, because that still lays a foundation, you know what I mean, for that growth, because, you know, you have to start somewhere. You know what I'm saying? You have to start where, regardless if it's Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. But like, one thing that people really don't understand is like, even all of these, there's an esoteric doctrine and the exoteric doctrine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Most people have their hands on, you know, to the exoteric as opposed to the esoteric. You know, and all that stuff is in the Bible, the Quran. You know what I'm saying? In the Torah. You know, with the, you know, the different, you know, the orders of Melchizedek, the Sufi order, you know what I'm saying? You know, and so on and so on, you know. So even in those three, there's next level information, you know, and a lot of individuals, most individuals just deal with the exoteric side, but it's there as well. But, you know, that's still going from, like you said earlier, elementary to middle. You can't stop in middle school. You got to go to high school. You know what I'm saying? You got to go to college. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep on evolving and growing. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, you know, I tell people all the time, it's nothing wrong with like.
No, it's nothing wrong with what?
No, it's nothing wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of that, of where your starting points. You know what I'm saying? Because it's your foundation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I wouldn't know anything about the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, when I would have got higher information, I would have been stuck like Chuck. I wouldn't know anything about what books that would get in front of me. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's a good foundation, but unfortunately or fortunately, depending, I mean, it's not even unfortunate, because we're all dealing with our own experience. But some people just stay in those books, and that's their whole life. You know what I'm saying? Others, you know, they keep on climbing and growing and trying to get more and more and more. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's not even I don't judge anybody as far as where they are, where their mindset is. It's like, if you come to build, if you want to build with me on Christianity, cool, I know the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Let's build. You know what I'm saying? And on the other side of the end of the day is, you know, just dealing on, you know, the mundane aspect of it all. Man, are you a good person? You know what I'm saying? Are you a good person? You know what I'm saying? Do I even want to be around you? Is Islam, Christianity, or you know, Judaism helping you become a good person? So be it. Now, if you're trying to go to the next level, and we're gonna build, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna build on, you know, stuff outside of all those, you know what I'm saying? And that foundation of knowledge. Not only that, but just being a good person. That's pertinent, in the evolution of a human being.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, brother. It's foundational. It's definitely foundational. So tell us more about your book and how somebody can learn from your movement. You move from one level to the next level. How can they learn from your movement?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just continuously and constantly elevate, and learn and get information. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even talking from a spiritual point, because I got a chapter in there, I call Black Wall Street, in which it deals specifically with, like I'm gonna tell you this, like I'm gonna give you a perfect example, like. And through all my studies stuff, I remember this time I went down to Savior's Day down Tamaray, down in the land in down in Eatonton, Georgia, Doc York had. So I went down there, right? This is when that place was popping. It's when I was down there literally when there was only 2 pyramids, like, just red clay. You know what I'm saying? I was down there then, but I'm talking, let's go forward to about 6 or 7 years after that. And I remember going on the land and everything I saw, right? There's people of all races, thousands of people, you know what I'm saying? And they were all spending money, you know what I'm saying? And they took the town of Eatonton over, you know what I'm saying? But I saw the power of the black dollar, you know what I'm saying? And it's not all spirituality. It's not all that stuff. It's economics as well. You know what I'm saying? I just saw the way that people came together to build things. Like on a smaller level. I remember one time, I think they were trying to get on the land, they were trying to get a printing machine, right? So they were trying to raise money to get the printing machine, but like it wasn't happening. So I remember Doc was saying like, all right, well there was a thing called the acid fascia, which happened during like Easter. So he threw a party, right? So he threw a party and brought the people together to raise money to get the printing machine. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, our mindset wouldn't just be like, oh, well, let's get our money together. So he had to trick, you know what I'm saying, to trick us into doing something for self so that he could, you know what I'm saying? That they had to work together and use that dollar to get a publisher, get a printer so that, they could publish more books and get it out. You know what I'm saying? Get the information out. But my point is, in saying all of that, it's just like, in addition to everything else, I saw how black economics work firsthand. You know what I'm saying? I saw that, and it was just, that blew my mind. I ain't gonna front, man. I was like, because I visualized that, on that small level, and it kind of branching out to just imagine, you know what I'm saying? Just imagine, just imagine, if they didn't kill Gaddafi and he brought the African nations together and, had a gold-based dollar, you know what I'm saying? Just imagine what could have been done. You know what I'm saying? That would be obviously in a higher level, but, I visualized the reality of that. I saw the reality, a smaller reality of that there. You see what I'm saying? And
right.
It's all encompassed. It's all encompassed. You know what I'm saying? It's just the spiritual aspect, the health aspect. You know what I'm saying? It's all encompassed. You know what I'm saying?
Understood. You brought up the value of economics. We started off, you and I both started off heavily involved in the church. And what's interesting, that there are a lot of messages on economics that are in the canonized Bible that we totally miss because nobody really focuses on them. And then if you look at the larger Torah, there are messages on how to run your business, how to hire people, how to save. The people who follow Hebrew culture are instructed that you're not supposed to charge interest to your fellow Hebrew. Right. But for everybody else, you can charge up to a number that a person can get out of within 7 years. So it's that discreet. So when we look at, we normally say that bankers and people involved with commerce, are, people who follow the Hebrew culture, Jews generally. And that's because the information that they constantly deal with tells them how to focus on the economics.
Exactly.
That's
because
unfortunately missing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the good thing about becoming more conscious. Good thing about becoming more conscious, and we have a little bit of a delay here, so I can see that it's delayed by the time you hear me, and it's delayed by the time I hear you. By becoming conscious, we stray from just one canon, and we start looking at other books and other belief systems and other information, and we realize, oh, this is what this was referring to. So when you look at the story about the talents, and one person buried his talent in the ground and didn't do nothing with it. Another person gave back the same level of money that was given. And another person, the good and faithful servant, received interest and was able to flip and gain interest on their investment. So then you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about. And that's how you do it. And then you start reading economic books. And then you start expanding your consciousness rather than staying in just one canon. And then you, like you were saying, you start looking at Rastafarianism and saying, oh, okay, I'm starting to see, okay, in the canonized Bible, it says that the proper name for Yahweh is Jah, and they say Jah Rastafari. Okay, so you start making some connections. And then you start seeing, the information, and, you start looking at the Meduna Tear. I left the Bible, and then I looked at the Quran, and then I looked at the Meduna Tear, and then I started reading Black Man of the Nile, Dr. Ben, and then I started listening to Steve Coakley. And it's amazing when you start getting all this. Right. Yeah. Now, Steve Coakley, he used to come down to the Hampton Roads area, actually to Norfolk. I stay in Virginia Beach, and he used to get on me and some of the other brothers. I'm involved in a fraternity. I'm a Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So he used to call me an oath keeper and say a whole lot of other crazy stuff. I'm still involved with a local church. So they were like, you trying to play both sides of the fence? And I'm like, I'm just balancing this information that I get, bro. But then you start putting all that stuff together, man, and you start seeing things on a higher level. And it's amazing. I think it's a beautiful thing. So when you talk about becoming conscious, you told us a little bit about how you became a little more conscious. Why don't you tell us about the benefits of your conscious raising experience? Yeah, you froze.
Okay, on me, could you ask the question then? Because it was buffering a little bit. The last part. What has been the benefit of your conscious raised experience? How are you better, bro? How are you better? Okay, you said the benefit of my conscious raised experience. Is that correct?
Yes.
Say it again. How am I better? Oh,
yes.
Well, I think that one aspect of all of this, like I was saying earlier, is that once you started understanding yourself, and once you started understanding the way the universe works, and etc., it ultimately makes you a better person. Dealing with the disciplines of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with being connected to nature. Better, and able to make being able to. The more you're better, the more you internalize and go in, the more you can benefit others, through your information, through your elevation, like more so. Let me. I'm trying to think of it makes you ultimately just become a better person. You know what I'm saying? And it starts to alleviate the trial and error. But in addition, it's like unlocking doors inside of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Tapping into powers that you didn't know they were there before. You know what I'm saying? That you might not even know if even existed. And it's like going inside. You become more powerful and you become a better person. And that way you can really be able to teach others, you know what I'm saying, if they want the information, and you can spread this information so others can elevate as well, you know, because it's really not good if you have all the information and you're keeping it to yourself. You know what I'm saying? You know, each one teach one is where a mindset where we should all be, you know what I'm saying, and building as a collective, you know what I mean? So this consciousness has gotten me to become a better person, become elevated. So I'm able to do stuff like, you know, build with you and others about, you know, elevating and become a better person as well, and spreading that information. You know, not only information about self, but also real talk, man. We need to know how great we were as a people. You know what I'm saying? We need to know that, you know, like I talk about the book. I talk about the book. I talk about how I remember in 5th grade, you know, first thing I ever heard anything about Black history was that I was a slave, you know? And I just am like, and I just remembered everybody looking at me because, you know, it was a mixed class, but everybody's looking at the Black people class like, dang, y'all slaves, you know what I'm saying? So right then and there, like, my life was cool, but then that hit me, you know what I'm saying? That, yo, I was a slave? You know what I'm saying? But that's all the information I was ever given until I started doing self-study. You know what I'm saying? Even though when I went to college, African-American classes, you know, some of the, or even like, some of the other classes, not African-American classes, some of the other history classes, when they talk about Egyptians and stuff, they said, I remember this one professor says, well, the Egyptians were definitely not Black. They were more like mulattoes. And I was just like, that don't make no damn sense. They over there in Africa, and they supposed to be the old, you know what I'm saying? So, right. Just learning, you know what I'm saying, every aspect, you know what I mean? Like I said earlier about given misinformation and learning that, it just elevates you, man. It just opens you up. You know what I'm saying? That's what's happened to me, and I keep on digging, learning, and researching. So, you know, I keep on trying to level up as an individual.
Yeah. Sierra talks about level up. I do agree that it gives you a better framework to take in new information and understand the things that are happening around you. Right. All right. So, you know, when you look at, like, for instance, you know, I think on the very front of your webpage, there's a picture of you in front of the pyramids.
Yeah, in Teotihuacan. Yeah, Mexico.
I went to those pyramids in Mexico, my wife and I. We had a very interesting experience there, bro. All right, so here's how consciousness kind of gave me a better experience when I went to Mexico. All right, so we're on the bus, and the guide is asking us questions, and the whole ride from we left Cancun and we went to Chichen Itza, right? All right. So the whole ride to Chichen Itza, where those particular pyramids were, we were watching stuff, and I'm like, wow, in all of the art, I see heavily melanated people with dreads, with fros, interacting with melanated people who had straighter hair. So I saw what we might say Africans interacting with people that we might say are Indian, you know, and I saw this picture, these icons the whole way. And so the tour guide asked us while we're on the bus, well, you know, these are the Mayan pyramids, but do you know that the Mayans were helped by somebody? And I raised my hand. He said, okay. Yeah. He said, he said, well, who helped the Mayans? I said, they were helped by the Olmecs. And he said, that's right, they were helped by the Olmecs. And so as people were getting off the bus, he kind of put his hands up, right? And so me and my wife kind of took our time, and we were like the last people. And when we got off the bus, he pulled us to the side, and he said, we know that the Olmecs were Black Africans. Now, he said this to my wife and I to the side. He didn't say it in front of everybody else. So I thought it was kind of interesting. So we had a different experience going to those pyramids because we knew that we had something to do with those pyramids. You know?
Exactly. No, and you're right.
What was your experience?
I had a similar experience as well. Because I remember going in Teotihuacan, and at the bottom of one of the temples, they had one of the kings there. and he was jet black, like this shirt right here, jet black. And he had pillar just like you see in, like a jet pillar, very similar. And the symbolism matched ancient Kemetic symbolism. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I saw the symbolism, but and all over the place I saw the symbolism. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But I had a similar experience like you did, because I talked to the and this has happened numerous times for me traveling around to I went to Chichen Itza too, and that's an interesting experience, because the man in Chichen Itza, they try to say that that there were reptilian beings that helped build those pyramids that were the king. That's what some people said, and I've heard that as well. So I talked to him about that, and he was like, we've heard that too. I was like, what I'm saying. So we were building on that. But even in Chichen Itza, it was similar. They were just like, we didn't build this, what I'm saying. And they said specific, one of the tour guys was like, there were Africans that built it, what I'm saying. And they very similar experience. And that's been consistent about all the different places I've traveled as well. You know what I'm saying?
Where else have you traveled?
You mean as far as like ancient sites, or just like all around the world, you mean?
Let's talk all around the world, in particular those places in the world
Okay, well, I had in my chapter, in my book, there's a chapter called London Calling, because once I left Richmond, one of my homeboys is like, he used to live over in London for a while, Richmond there. He's like, you need to go there. I said, why I gotta go there? He said, you need to go there because you need to have the experience, and at the time I was in school, like this is like 20 years ago. At that time I was in school, but no, I was off season, I should say. I was out of semester. So I was just working, you know what I'm saying? And I was either going to go to get a school and go to school up in Charlottesville, like community college up there, or I was going to go to, if I didn't get the apartment, I said, I'm going to go to London. I didn't get the apartment. I took all that money I saved up and I went to London. And everything, and it was an experience that, like we said earlier, and just because I saw different cultures, you know what I'm saying? I met, people from all over the place, you know what I'm saying? And that's the time, I was still studying like back in then it was called the Holy Tabernacle Ministries. I used to go over to London. There was a Holy Tabernacle Ministries over there. I used to go to class, but I met so many people, so many different cultures that my mind was like, yo, I'm not just way much more than just being a brother from the South Side of, Richmond, Virginia. You know what I'm saying? All the things I saw. I remember going to the British Museum and seeing all these ancient artifacts about all the stuff that I read before. You know what I'm saying? All this experience with people with different mindsets, American mindsets. That, what I'm saying? I met people, I seen people over there that I've seen real white people over there. You know what I'm saying? Like people that you hardly even see here in America. And then those genetics, from different places. I saw that, experience the culture. You know what I'm saying? I saw all of that. So London got me out of just the mindset of just being like I said, a South Side, a boy from the South Side from, Richmond, Virginia. And so London was a big influence on me, just experiencing life and new culture and just dealing with people from all over the world. I talk about that in the whole chapter in the book. It's quite interesting. Jamaica,
can I interrupt,
what I'm saying? Jamaica. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, man. One thing you mentioned London, and interestingly enough, I have a blog that I discuss London. So my wife and I went to London. It's kind of interesting, man. So we saw, there's history of our people right there in the middle of London, man. This was in like one of the town squares, Trafalgar Square. Right.
Trafalgar Square, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And so, man, that kind of blew me away. And then we got a chance to meet with the people at the Uganda house. Yeah. And this is what really blew me away. This was Harrods of London. Did you get a chance to go into Harrods of London? Man, look, this is the decor in this department store.
Wow.
This is decor in the department store, man. This is a department store.
That's beautiful, man.
Right. And so it turns out that this is Princess Diana here, and she was dating this guy, and his family owns this place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I tell you, here's a picture of some of the people that we ran into in London. This is my cousin here, and my other cousin actually got married, and he married a lady who grew up in Britain. I call her Bridgerian. That's her there, and that's him. So yeah, he's from DC, and she grew up in London.
Okay.
So we had a really similar experience, brother, and it was really similar experience at their wedding, man. Yeah. So tell me about Jamaica.
Yeah,
tell me about Jamaica.
I can imagine. Well,
tell me about Jamaica
earlier. Like I was about to say, it's like the thing that blew my mind about Jamaica, though. We had a local tour guide that was taking us around. He took us to all the real spots. You know what I'm saying? He was showing us like the where they were doing the revolts and all. You know, he was showing us the real stuff. But see, one interesting thing that really blew my mind, man, and this ain't that long ago. This is, a couple years ago. He took us to this place that was, I would say, about 10 minutes walk from the beach, right? And it was all Jamaican, native Jamaicans that lived there, and they all had these big houses, and they all had like 4 or 5 acres of land, and they were all growing, food on it. And I'm just like, and I just saw the way, they were living over there, and I was just like, yo, this is living, and every time I go to places like that, you know what I'm saying? Even like I just came back from Haiti like a year ago and had an experience over there. But I'll talk about that too if you want me to. But Jamaica, that's when I first saw people outside of Atlanta, Georgia, you know what I'm saying? Like, that just had a bunch of clout and a bunch of money, and they were living like we should be living off the land. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have to work. All the true crime and stuff was, in certain areas. You know what I'm saying? So those people were chilling, man, and they were happy. So it just started really opening my eyes up to how there's different ways to live. You know what I mean?
Understood. Have you had a chance to go to the Polynesian Islands?
Not yet. But Asia and that whole area over there, I want to go to Angkor Wat very bad, man. Like that's one of my, my what do you call it, bucket list things. Like to see Angkor Wat, see the temple over there. But I'm definitely going to go. But I haven't been there yet. Like I said, another thing that blew my mind was I went to Haiti because I'm currently, going through the process of becoming a Haitian voodoo priest. And I spent some time over there, and in addition, that place blew my mind. The energy, the people, and I'm gonna say this too, man. It's like I always love going to places when I don't see white people there. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just, it has a different, different energy. You don't have to worry about the BS like we do have to do over here about getting cracked over the head, when just trying to go to the store to get something to eat. You got to worry about cops, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff that we have to deal with over here. You don't have to do that when, everybody looks like you. You know what I mean? But, Haiti, Jamaica, Mexico numerous times. Been a lot of places in America. What else about that? Man, you gave me down into thinking now. I think those are the main places. Those are the main places, yeah. I think I covered all those, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap up, brother. There are people who are saying, okay, this sounds intriguing. I want to become a lot more aware of things, and I want to have a similar experience to your bro Zoe. So, your book. If you gave your book to somebody brand new, and they first got a chance to read through it, let's say it takes them 30 days to read through it, what would their life be like 30 days later?
They would definitely want to travel. Number one, they would definitely understand how it is dealing with self-esteem issues, dealing with self-hate, because of the way that this white supremacist dominant society, tries to make us feel, try to project onto us. They walk in my shoes dealing with that. They'll see also the evolution of a closed and sheltered mind blossoming, like a lotus flower. They'll see that. They'll see the transformation. They'll see a broader picture of, and I tell people all the time that there's certain blueprints and plans that we've been given for people of the diaspora to be able to become self-sufficient. You know what I'm saying? To be able to evolve and grow, and to just being able to elevate themselves and their family as much as they can. In the back of the book, I have a lot of suggestive readings from some of the great teachers. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Dr. Hafiz Ansari, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Dr. York, even Zachariah Stitchin, a whole bunch of different books that people can read. Yeah, people can read, because I say stuff in the book, but I'm not going to sit there. My books aren't the type of books that I'm going to refer you to somebody to get the meat potatoes. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you, what I got from it. But, check out the Diop, all these people, all these people that wrote these, numerous books that crack my skull. It's your turn to get your skull cracked, you know what I'm saying, from these great teachers, so you can, evolve and grow mentally as well. But yeah, so yeah, it would be traveling. It would be evolving as a person. It would be learning about economics and the power behind economics. It would be also another thing is about we got to start to. We have to understand that a lot of this negativity, it is an illusion. You know what I'm saying? It's not real. The Wizard. The Wizard, just like in the movie when Toto went around and pulled the screen, and Wizard Oz, was all big and scary, and then he's some old frail looking white dude sitting there pulling gadgets and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's a true representation, literally, of his world. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an illusion. You take away TV. You know what I'm saying? And all their cinemas and all that stuff to make everybody these people look all strong and all that stuff. Nah, man. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, there's another thing I say in the book, and I try to pound that in. It's like, we have to learn world history. We have to know our history. And I talk about the book, and like, black people have been walking around with the dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying? It's been a very minute time frame in which I like to call it amnesia. A very minute time frame in which we've lost what we had before. And this, being in the age of the Aquarius, we're starting to get it back. We're starting to remember again, and we're going to get our power back. It's inevitable. It's all a part of cycles of time. So, it just helps to know where you came from and who you are, us as a people, and our greatness. It helps tremendously, to navigate through all of this, because the self-esteem goes away, the self-hate goes away. You're just like, oh, they saying all this stuff just to make you not realize how dope we really are. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, all those things in there, those people to get from reading the book.
All right. Good stuff, man. Yo, bro, Zoe, any last words before we close up for the night, brother?
Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody, for tuning in. And you can definitely go to my website, www.yourbrozo.com. The brother been showing you. And I do have a podcast as well. I think I have the Brother Supreme Understanding. I did a podcast with him, and it'll be premiering. Like if you press the podcast button on there, I think it's already up premiere. I think it's premiered at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So I have a lot of good teachers, a lot of good people putting information out on the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so it the podcast is dope. I got a video version, and then I have the actual audio just from the podcast itself. So I got some very powerful. The brother Crumb, he's going to be on one upcoming soon. I got Supreme Understanding. I got the brother Tony Drake from Platinum VK. I got some dope individuals coming up. You know what I'm saying? So
all right.
I want you to alive, a third eye.
Okay. So I see where the Black Punk thing comes in.
Yeah, that's my intro as people, and you'll see it in music when I.
All right, I like what I'm hearing, good brother Zoe. Like what I'm hearing, your bro Zoe. Good stuff, man. So we'll have to make sure that we send people to check that out, man.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, hey, we thank you for being on the Get On Code, the Fly Guys show. So everybody, stay on code, pick up Zoe's book, learn how you can become a lot more aware of the things that are happening around you, aware of the forces that are forcing themselves in your life, aware of the constructs that are leading the way that you think and respond to the world, so you can have a better experience. All right? Peace and prosperity.
Indeed. Yes, sir.
Stay fly, 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 stay fly.
The views expressed by the guests are only the views of the guests, unless we say we agree. Unless explicitly stated.
Stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly, stay fly.